All right, everybody. So we had so many things happening over the last few weeks. We've got the wars overseas going on. We've got Charlie Kirk, Jimmy Kimmel, all this stuff that's happened. I thought maybe Trump had successfully extinguished the fire that we all call the Epstein files. I thought maybe he threw so much stuff at us that people in the media just forgot about the Epstein files and they would just forget about it and be done with it. Well, apparently not. The Epstein files are back in the news because a couple of prominent names have been included in the Epstein files. So I'm going to let Don Lemon take this over, and then I'll have a few comments here and there.
Jeffrey Epstein is back. The Epstein files, they're back. And the people who are in them are big names amongst the mega crowd. Okay. So Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released a tranche of partial records from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, which include flight logs, it includes diary appointments, and a financial ledger. In the partially redacted documents, there are several emailed schedules over the years, which include this is 2019, okay, with the former White House advisor Steve Bannon. Lunch in 2017 with billionaire and Trump ally Peter Thiel. A potential visit from Elon Musk to
Steve
Epstein
Bannon and
Island
Elon
in
Musk.
2014. Again, that is according to the Congress, the Oversight Committee, who have released these records, have been given these records, and they're releasing this information. There's also a flight log from 2000, which lists Prince Andrew as a passenger on Epstein's private jet. So these new files are notable in that they suggest all three powerful men had relationships with Jeffrey Epstein years after his controversial plea deal that forced him to register as a sex offender. Now, many people have argued that the non prosecution agreement, which was signed, and now many controversial.
Let me say this real quick. So you'll see the comment at the bottom by Brandon Boyd. He says all of those people should be behind bars. Just disgusting. I want to make sure I say this. I do think that all three of those folks should be behind bars for various reasons. But in this case, them being in the files for the reasons that they're in the files is not, it doesn't make them a thief. It doesn't make them uh, it doesn't put them it doesn't make them red-handed to any kind of thievery or any kind of it doesn't make them a criminal instantly. It just doesn't. The reasons why they're in there, it's not because it's saying that they did something wrong, but it's saying like Elon Musk was supposed to be traveling to the island on this day. Dot dot dot. Is that still happening? That was one of the notes in there. With Steve Bannon, it was like I'm supposed to have lunch with Steve, or I think breakfast with Steve Bannon at 9 o'clock or something like that. So they are in the files. That means their names are in the files, but it doesn't mean that someone has a picture of them doing things with underage kids or anything like that. I hope that makes sense.
Plea deal that forced him to register as a sex offender. Now, many people have argued that the non prosecution agreement, which was signed in 2007, allowed Epstein to continue to prey on young women and girls for years before his subsequent 2019 arrest. Okay? So, we have so much reporting. We have the best guest. I believe the person who's the most informed, at least the reporter or journalist who's the most informed on the Jeffrey Epstein story, and that is veteran journalist and author of The Red Letter on Substack and the host of the Tara Palmieri Show right here on YouTube, and that is Tara Palmieri. Tara, thank you so much for joining us. We also have, by the way, our Lemon Legends will be up in just. They're going to take some. They're going to have questions for me. I don't know if Tara has to. Maybe she can take some questions. I don't know. But anyways, we didn't ask before, so Tara, you're not obligated to do it. Tara, what is going on? It's because when we were doing this, we said, "Is this the Epstein file?"
Can we get a round of applause for Tara's teeth? She got some nice dental work going on. Congratulations, Tara. Whatever you have been doing for your whole life to take care of your teeth, get a grade A for that.
Files?
Congratulations.
Is it the estate logs? But I think this is what's commonly being referred to as the Epstein files. And now we have these three very wealthy, high-profile men. Some of them, even one of them in the administration, in these files.
Yeah, I mean, Don, they are the Epstein files. They are what would be in the discovery that the Epstein estate handed over as part of various defamation cases, like the one between Ghislaine Maxwell and Virginia Giuffre, and other victims who have, demanded Epstein's schedule, the flight logs, and various other items. Even the FBI has looked through this for their 2019 case. This is what's in the Epstein files, what the Epstein estate has right now. They had to hand it over. And as you saw, I mean, you have at least three names. You have three very prominent people in President Trump's world. Steve Bannon, who just a year earlier was a senior White House official, meeting with Jeffrey Epstein after he was a sex offender. In 2008, he was charged with procuring a minor for prostitution. You have another very
That's
close
crazy.
person to President Trump, Elon Musk. We don't know if he went to the island. It says TBD on the schedule, but he was slated to go to Jeffrey Epstein's island where so much of this depravity happened, this little St. James. And then you have Peter Thiel, a major donor in Republican circles, not just to President Trump, to JD Vance, meeting with Jeffrey Epstein for lunch. Now, we should also note that Bill Gates was supposed to go to a party with Jeffrey Epstein in 2014, and that's also in the files. So I just think it really shows you how insidious these power circles are with Jeffrey Epstein and why so many people just don't want this all out there.
See, if you look at the screen there to show you 7 a.m. breakfast with Steve Bannon, that was February 16, 2019. And then Saturday, December 6, 2014, you'll see where it says reminder Elon Musk on island December 6th. Is this still happening? Then at the bottom, it says 12 o'clock p.m. lunch with Peter Thiel. So it does not mean that they committed a crime, but when you're hanging around with shady people, you have to almost assume that, like, if you got one person that's real shady and then this person's going to lunch with that shady person, you almost have to connect the dots. So they're almost guilty by association. But unfortunately, however you want to look at it, that's not how this country is ran. So that's why when people say these folks should be in jail, I'm like, for some other stuff, sure, but not quite on this yet. Not enough information to actually say they should be in jail for being on someone's schedule. Hope that makes sense.
He had connections with literally everyone. And you and I know that Peter Thiel is very powerful in Republican circles, and they just don't want this out there. And it's a drip, 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 Don, because the Epstein estate is going to have to hand over the files, and I'm sure the people who are leaking this out from the committee, they know this. If it continues to go like this, and there was also obviously the hack from earlier this week with Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. She's apologizing to Jeffrey Epstein for calling him a pedophile and publicly distancing herself from him. She says, "You are a supreme friend," and this is a hack. Now, where did it come from? We don't really know. So I just think that every single day we're going to learn more and more about the web of people around Jeffrey Epstein and why he's being so protected at the highest levels.
In case you're wondering who Peter Thiel is, because a lot of folks don't know who he is, I just looked it up real quick. German-American entrepreneur and venture capitalist. Net worth is $26.1 billion. That's part of why you would assume that he's dealing with these folks, right? They only deal with the filthy rich. Says Peter Thiel is an American and German entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and political activist. A co-founder of PayPal and Founders Fund. He was also first outside investor in Facebook. So, yeah, $26.1 billion is what he's worth. And that's why he's able to rub shoulders with Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, probably Donald Trump. You know, that's why he's in the Epstein files, because he's got a bunch of money, and that's basically all they deal with. Rich folks just deal with rich folks for the most part. So there's some information on him.
It's really amazing because when these names like this are coming out, isn't to say that they did anything wrong, but still they're in those files. And you
Right.
remember Elon Musk is that tweeted out, "You're in the files, DJT. Have a nice day."
I
Yeah.
And
forgot about
I
that.
don't think
That's
Donald Trump
crazy.
responded in kind today. I mean, he could have responded, "You're in the files, Elon. Have a nice day." But when you hear just names of folks who are like this and the number of people who are in there, and that Donald Trump's name has been redacted according to the reports from by the FBI, I mean, one wonders, like, they've got to be protecting something. Are they just protecting rich, powerful men? And that the fallout from this, the number of people who are going to be revealed will just be astounding. Is that what they're holding on to? Is that why they're hiding these files?
I think it also has to do with the level of corruption within the Justice Department as well, with the sweetheart
Mm.
deal and why
Right.
he's been protected for so long. But I don't think we can really say this enough that he was a sex offender. And if you spent any time with Jeffrey Epstein, and by the way, these men all spent time with Jeffrey Epstein after his time in 2008 in jail, okay, after he was incarcerated for procuring a minor for prostitution.
That part is really important. Super important. Like when I talked about the court of public opinion, if somebody was dealing with, let's say, Steve Bannon or dealing with Epstein before a crime was committed, it's like, okay, maybe you can cut them some slack on that. But after they've publicly been convicted of something, publicly, we all know that he's done it, and you hanging out with them after, and you're even potentially going to his island after, that is a bad look. There's no way that you can make that look any better. It's a bad look across the board.
He was a pedophile sex offender, and these people still agreed to meet with him. They still wanted to spend time with him. I don't know. Where I'm from, people don't hang out with pedophiles, okay? People who
No.
have spent time in prison for this. And yet they were fine with it. And I just think that we really can't forget that is a huge part of the story. And there's a lot of, social embarrassment, I think, that comes with having it known that you continue to speak with them. We don't even know what they were doing, by the way. But here's another thing. If you got on that Lolita Express, just the name alone should suggest what was going on. But like,
Yeah.
if you got on that plane, you saw these flight attendants dressed very scantily. There was no secret that Jeffrey Epstein liked to be around young girls, even in President Trump's own words. This was not something he was hiding. When they went to his home in Palm Beach and they did a raid, they found pictures of girls lining the walls, just pictures of young girls all over the place.
Yeah.
So
Well, go
there's
on.
So to assume that Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Steve Bannon didn't know anything about that stuff would make you incredibly naive. But they had to have known that Steve Bannon was doing this. I'm sorry, they had to have known that Jeffrey Epstein was doing this kind of stuff. So they would kind of just went along with it. I really don't like to hang people before like all the information comes out. I don't like to do that. I like to be fair. But man, again, for somebody to be convicted about something and then it's actually a public situation, everybody knows about it, and then you still go hang out with them on their plane and all that stuff, it makes you almost have to assume that you knew about it and you were a part of it. Almost have to.
Sorry.
It was so obvious. So it was like hiding in plain sight. There was no hiding, actually. It was just out there. And he had this reputation. So I don't know. I don't buy this whole like we didn't know who he was.
Right.
Everybody knew who Jeffrey Epstein was.
Yeah, but Tara, I mean, it's even beyond that. I mean, look at the birthday book and look at, what folks said and the pictures that were in there. It was like an open secret. Like it's not even a secret. They made fun of it. They thought it was
Yeah.
funny. I mean, did they not? You saw the drawings and people were, made reference to him liking young girls.
Yeah. I don't know. It would be impossible to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein and not know that this was a crucial part of his life. The guy
Correct.
openly bragged about wanting 3 orgasms a day. Okay. This was something he bragged about.
To me, Epstein just sounds like a guy who grew up like a super nerd. He got no kind of play with any women or any girls growing up. And then once he got a bunch of money, he was like, okay, now I got this money, girls, come get it. He just seems like a kind of creep that had no luck with the ladies growing up. And now and then once he finally got some money, he figured it's time to catch up. That's just what it seems like to me.
He actually saw this as almost like a godlike quality that he had, that he was almost immune, untouchable. He could commit one of the worst sins, going after children, and still it's indefensible, and still have all of these people still wanting to be around him. I mean, he bragged about it. And in a lot of ways, they sort of groomed the elites into thinking that this was permissible, that this was normal behavior. And so, I don't think there was any hiding. There was no hiding who Jeffrey Epstein was. There are girls on the flight logs, including Virginia Giuffre, and she was 16, 15 at the time, 17. And I'm sorry, but like when you're sitting next to a 16-year-old, you have to be thinking to yourself, this is somebody else's kid. And if you're
Yeah.
not, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, this is just, this is depravity, and this was happening. This is who Jeffrey Epstein was. Like, this is what he was about. It's like this was Jeffrey Epstein's MO. This is happening.
So, yeah, I mean, like the Trump supporters, the MAGA worshipers, as I call them, they love to claim that Donald Trump does not lie, but we see him lie about things that's easily proven time after time again. I don't know if y'all remember, but he actually had someone come out and say the Epstein files don't exist. Do you remember that? He was like, no, they don't exist. First, they were like, I've got the Epstein files on my desk. I'm supposed to be looking through them. And before you knew it, just a couple weeks later, she was like, yep, Epstein files, they don't exist. No such thing. Okay, so that was a lie. And then there was a story about Donald Trump sending Epstein like a poem or some type of literature that was made in the form of a woman's body, and it had Donald Trump's signature on it. Donald Trump was like, no, like, I'm going to sue this art. I'm going to sue, I think it was the New York Times. I'm going to sue y'all because you made that up. That doesn't exist. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, there it is. Now what? And everybody just shrugs it off like, okay, didn't happen. The man will lie about anything. He only cares about himself. I shouldn't say that. He cares about himself and money. Those are the two things he cares about. He lies about everything. I am glad that the Epstein files are back in the public eye because we cannot forget about this. That's all that I got for y'all today, man. We're going to continue growing this channel one like and one subscription at a time. So please do like the channel. Please do like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Every subscription we get, it helps me take care of my family even better. So I appreciate that. Take care. God bless. Peace.